And we are live.
It's Ultra Podcast Z, the show that brings you the bean pizzas.
No.
Yes, that's the meme. That's the meme we were talking about earlier.
Yes, I know that, but no, Manuel.
It's a pizza that you put beans on. No, I'm just kidding. Anyways. Ultra Podcast
Yeah.
Z, blah, blah, blah.
Adam,
Whatever.
could you scoot in a
Episode
bit?
181. I'm Manuel, leader of AJ Connections. And we have new guests. Don't get me wrong, we've had several guests. We have new guests tonight. Go introduce yourselves. We'll just start with that.
All right. Hi, I'm Jessie. I'm the AMV contest coordinator for Tora-con. Been working with Tora-con since 2011, 12, somewhere around there.
I'm Adam. I've also been former RIT student and Tora-con involved person since a long time. And general, we also staff a lot of other conventions and yeah. On the East Coast, yeah.
Yes, and we've been anime fans for a very long time.
Cool.
Yeah.
We have a lot of stuff to talk about tonight. I don't know how much. Usually, it's funny because you don't know this. You don't know this because presumably, I don't really remember how the episode went that we specifically talked about Tora-con. I don't remember how the opening went. I'm sure JD didn't do what I usually do, but that was probably the most concise opening we've had in years, if not ever. Usually it's me swing and a miss with jokes that just don't land. I'm like, haha, I'll think of something funny to start the show with. Hey, we're the internet's most wackiest podcast, and it's like ha 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 ha. Anyways, it's funny though because I have on YouTube they do tell you how good you keep your attention. And we're apparently unlike most channels, and they tell you this, because we keep past the first minute, which I admit is a stupidly low barometer. YouTube should really be more, should set higher benchmarks for what constitutes retaining viewership. But yeah, so apparently we're doing I forgot what the percentage is, more than most channels our size. So yeah. Anyway.
It's good. Congratulations.
Anyway, yeah, if you're watching on YouTube, I never say this until the end, but if you're watching on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe. Do it now before you watch anything, because for all you know, you don't like it, but you already subbed, so screw you. I'm just kidding. And everyone that subs. Anyways, so yeah, you guys work Tora-con, or you guys still work with Tora-con, correct?
Yep.
Nice.
Still AMV contest coordinator. Adam does more of the main events.
I'm not a tech guy. We do live video production for Anime Boston. Basically, all the stuff that happens behind black curtains that involves pushing buttons and running cable and that sort of thing.
Yeah, just pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Except for right now, because now he's not behind the curtain.
Yeah.
No, it's crazy because we had a whole discussion about AMVs before we went live, and it kind of made me think about it a lot and really pinpoint a lot of things about it. And I was mentioning how AMV contests are low key kind of dying, especially AX has one, but I've never heard them advertise it. But apparently AX still has one. I just looked it up right now. But most other small conventions don't. Even though some of them are quote unquote oh, we're a fan convention, and that's a very fan thing to do. But I never ever thought about what you pointed out about some AMV people who would submit to multiple AMV contests. Wouldn't you have to be there? Is that not a rule to accept?
Oh no, that's definitely not. Yeah. It's pretty rare for people who actually. Yeah, so we've had to ship prizes around the world.
If the contest even offers a prize, usually they'll mail it to you. But a lot of times, for a lot of them, there isn't really a prize. It's just sort of bragging rights online that you get to put on when you upload your video to YouTube. You get to put, I won at this con. So, yeah.
But word does get around if you actually have nice prizes, and you will get,
Yeah.
It does actually help, I think. So
get more
funny.
people to submit. Yeah.
Yeah, because you can't find them anyway. That YouTube channel is long gone. But when I was younger, I used to dabble in. I didn't know they were AMVs. I just was, a kid mixing anime things to music. Oh, that kind of thing. I didn't know there was a word for it. And yeah, I'm I didn't know I could just submit those to like these contests and never
Contests,
actually
yeah.
go.
Yeah.
I thought that's what the whole idea was. I'd have to go to AX or I'd have to go to like,
I used to have to mail CDs
Yeah.
around. Yeah, we used to actually accept mail submissions of burned CDs. That sort of most of actually until like 2009, I think majority of our submissions were actually just people mailing us discs. Because some people still had dial-up and blah blah blah.
Yeah, it was before like Google Drive was super popular. It was before Dropbox.
Yeah,
and
we used to have an
file
FTP
sharing
server
things really
for
got off
it,
the
and some
ground.
people just didn't know what FTP was, and they would just mail us a disc instead. So
I mean, I don't even know what FTP is now. But
Yeah.
Really, Manuel.
Anyone who's watching who's interested in getting started with AMVs or has made some and is like, well, gee, I want to submit it to a contest now, I would highly recommend visiting animemusicvideos.org.
oh, there's a site for this.
It's
yes,
a big site where you can upload your videos for people to watch, but also there's a lot of forums that are pretty active where if an AMV contest runner knows what they're doing, should probably post like, hey, this is our con date, this is when we need your submission by, here's the rules, please submit to our contest, so that you can like go through and see everyone who's accepting submissions at that time.
but yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, it is a less active community than it was during its peak. I think.
Yeah, there's definitely,
but it's definitely still
now.
still a thing.
I don't know. I would like to see AMVs come back. Like I said, the few times I've gone to an AMV contest, I haven't gone to any recent ones, but the few times I have, it's cool, and it also harkens back to like the older days. Not to get too boomery here, I'm like, oh yeah, remember when you would find a ton of these on YouTube, but it's like, oh, here's another, I don't know, Naruto AMV to like in the end, or what was?
Well, that was
so
actually 2003. Was it 2003 or 2004? We had at Anime Club. There was an April Fool's Day thing where at RIT where the all of the we had like an hour of AMVs that were Linkin Park with Dragon Ball. Actually, it was 2003 then. Yeah.
Oh, they did it again one year. I know that.
I think possibly YouTube is part of the problem with AMVs losing popularity now, because they crack down a lot on the music copyrights now.
Yeah,
so
that's actually how I
find as many videos as you used to be able to.
That's how I lost my channel. My very first YouTube channel I ever had in my life wasn't just AMVs. It was also just random shit me and my friends would upload, and it would be like, oh, I lost a channel because like I kept getting strikes because because like, oh, you don't own whatever. I used to like really like power metal back then. You don't own this random like Camelot song you put into this AMV. Too bad. That sucks. That sucks. Anyway, but yeah, we talked about this earlier. Besides that, you do panels at conventions.
Yep.
We've done a lot of panels. Yeah.
Mostly
informational. Actually, we haven't run any game. You've had done game show elements.
I run a event called or I have twice now run an event called AMV Iron Chef.
AMV Iron Editor.
Well,
yeah.
It has different names all surrounding that kind of theme, but it's a bunch of AMV editors have like 2 or 3 hours to completely edit an AMV from start to finish. They have to follow certain rules. They have to use certain anime. They have to use certain songs. They have to use like certain wacky elements in there to make it weird. And then while they're doing that, I run like mini games with the audience. So I've done like mini game show things like that before, but
well, that's cool. Yeah, it's funny because like I don't know if JD mentioned this to you, but like I do a lot of panels at conventions, but ours are a lot more like just like history on things, topics of things, like things like that. But like we've done like over 100 panels. We stopped counting at one point, but like it was so cool. I'm like, oh shit, we hit like 130 this year. Because like there'd be some conventions where we would do like 4 to 6 panels, and there'd be some years where we would do like 10 to like 13 conventions a year.
Okay,
like insane amount.
That's pretty intense. Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, I think half of those were within like a year period. That just 1 year. I'm like, oh look, we went from like 50 to 100.
Well,
by
once
the
you
end of the year.
develop the content, you know,
You just
it just keep
regurgitating the
you just
same
keep
Yeah.
doing it.
information.
Yeah, it's a little easier. Or even
It's
like
just-
year to year, just help like modify the presentation to
Update it.
make
Yeah.
some improvements based on like whatever went well or what people thought was more interesting or you know.
Yeah,
But,
we were talking about some of
yeah.
your content in a second, but just just random things. Like most of the stuff we've done is like we do stuff on idle music. I don't know if you know what Visual K is.
Oh yeah,
And,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
Yeah, we've done stuff on like 80s. Right now, we're doing like a lot of ones on 80s Japanese metal. It's a lot of music, as you could tell. We've done stuff on idle anime. A very popular one that we're doing for years that we could only stopped recently was on eroguro, which is like a certain thing. I won't say genre, but certain like artistic thing within Japan. And yeah, and then we're actually coming up on a convention soon called, once again, PMX. We mentioned it before we went live, but for those who don't know, PMX is happening in October. It's back after well, we all know why it was gone for years, but yeah, it's back this year, and everyone should go. There's stuff I can't say about that, but we're doing a bunch of panels there, and we're doing some new ones, and we're doing like we're really being weird. We're doing one on JAV, which is adult video, but
Yep.
we're not doing it like the way you would think. We're doing it like, how do I say this? Just like some weird stuff, we're gonna go into the history of the censorship thing about like why that is, and like the weird cult of like trying to remove the censorship, huh?
I'm just saying, move on
Oh, you don't want
from this specific topic.
Well, I just wanted to bring that up. I just wanted to plug. I'm trying to plug PMX.
Yeah, plug your panels.
Plugging it. Anyway, so let's get to some more all ages topics, though. Bread.
Yeah, so yeah, I've done it. Yeah, so I lived in Japan 2009 to 2010 because I graduated from college the first time in a global recession and couldn't get a job, so I went to a language school in Japan for a year, taught English on the side. Had a stint working at McDonald's for a couple of weeks. That was weird. But yeah, at some point, I realized that, or had re-realized that that Japan doesn't have like normal sandwich bread like we have. They sell sliced bread and it's like super white and it's like that thick slices, and you can't make a sandwich with it because it's the size of your head by the time you stack 2 slices. And it's just like otherworldly, like too squishy, too soft. It's like it's not like I want like whole wheat bread, and so I'm not really like a big sandwich guy. But after living there for like 6 or 7 months, I was like, I want to have like just a normal sandwich. Like how can And so I went like on a quest. It was totally like, I'm just gonna procrastinate, using this as a way to procrastinate everything else that I actually want to do with my life. But like questing, like gonna go to all the grocery stores, within 5 miles and see if I can find like normal wheat sandwich bread. And I couldn't find it.
Spoiler alert, yeah.
And so I decided to make my own bread. So like I had to go buy stuff, and I actually had a pretty crazy gas combination gas stove microwave in my apartment, so I could actually do that. But then this turned into sort of like a weird fascination with how Japan has this different relationship with bread than was my prior experience as a growing up in the East Coast of America. And so somehow I ended up turning that into a panel, because there's also at anime cons, because there is actually an intersection with anime. There's anime about bread. I mean, there's Yakitate Japan. Bread products show up in anime all the time. And so, yeah, it was actually not that difficult to turn that into a panel that was sort of relevant to that kind of audience.
We talk about bread. The first section is usually like the history of bread in Japan. Then we talk about like the weird kinds of bread that you can find in Japan, or like how it's different than American breads. And then we finish off with like, here's all the anime that we know of that are heavily involved with bread.
And weird Japanese bread commercials because there's lots of
Yeah,
those.
we have
yeah.
commercials put in, and
Yeah, but it ended up getting to a point where there was an organic bakery in the same city I was living in, and it was like 10 miles away, and I would freaking walk to this bakery just so I could get wheat bread. And yeah, I don't know, it was crazy. But yeah, so Japan. So yeah, the first time we ran this panel was basically like they stuck us in. It was like 8 a.m. It was like the first panel of the day, but the room was actually sort of full, and I was like ranting about bread and throwing bread at people, and it went over really well actually.
Yeah, we got a bunch of like pre-made, prepackaged Anpan and like melon from the local Asian food market. So we'd ask the audience questions, and anyone who even like tried to answer it, we're like, yeah, get a bread. You get a bread.
And it was good. So we've run it a couple more times. But I mean, yeah, so that's why I think like you see these sort of bread-like products in anime, like melon pan, anpan, and these are kind of like the first time you see that, it's like, wow, that's weird, that's cool. But all these things have history, and they are actually, yeah, I mean, so
it's weird.
Yeah.
I've never thought about it before. I've never lived in Japan, but I have spent many weeks there, like over the years. And there was only one time I've ever been to a supermarket, only one time ever. And I remember like because I've only been to Tokyo all these times. And the one time I saw a supermarket was because a friend of mine was taking me to their house, and it was a more like what's what I'm looking for. It was a neighborhood, it wasn't like the city.
Way more suburban, yeah.
And I'm like, there's a market. Like, can we go there? Like, I just want to see what they have. And it was like, I was like, oh my god, it's a market. It's not a convenience or anything like that. It's an actual like regular market. And it didn't dawn on me that there was no bread. It just
there is bread, but there's like they sell it in 6, so it's like a loaf, but it's 6 slices.
I was gonna say,
so it's like seriously, slices are this thick. It's meant for toast. All you do is toast it and put butter
on top, like one piece. Yeah. It's funny because I was thinking about it right now, and I remember specifically because I was like, "Oh, look, let's get some bread." And I remember like the section where the bread was just like the way you said. That's all it was.
But they market it as being like healthy, but it's all made with. It's just like it's as white flour as you could possibly get, and they make it with margarine, and like it's not healthy at all.
I was gonna say, like, when you eat that bread, it's like yeah, like I said,
there's no fiber
not...
in that. I mean, I'm used to like people make jokes because like if they had like a 300 grain, whole wheat, like whole grain thing, that would be like my, as many grains as possible. But then, it's just like, yeah.
But like, they have sandwiches at the konbini that use sandwich bread or whatever. So
you can. I mean, they can slice it.
They can get it,
right?
Oh, I guess that makes sense.
The other thing, of course, you'll notice is that they never have the crust. That's
what I was thinking too. It's like I'm all these thoughts are running through my head too. I'm like, wait, so is that just more processed? Thick, like they get the loaf, not the thick slice. They just like cut it a million times smaller. I don't know. It just blows my mind. I've never thought about these things before.
You'll see that in anime too. Like if you're watching a lot of slice of life anime or high school drama anime, and if the characters go on a picnic or something, and someone's like, "I made sandwiches," like you'll see that there's no crust. And the slices will look like really thick and pure white with, whatever the fillings are in between. But yeah, that's not just like, oh, we think this looks good and we want it to look delicious in this anime. Like that's how their sandwiches actually look.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's there's a texture component there also. And so that's why, they have all this like super like fuwa bread business. But I mean, Japan does have a different relationship with bread than we do. I mean, that's, but yeah, I was actually in a city outside of Nagoya, so that's, it was a small city of only 300,000 people. So I was like surrounded by supermarkets. So I was kind of a supermarket. I spent a lot of time wandering around supermarkets. It was kind of a
That sounds like fun. I'm not gonna lie, because like one of these days when I go back to Japan, I need to go somewhere that's not Tokyo. And it's funny because this kind of segues into another topic. I'll talk more about bread later, but
Okay.
about traveling to Japan cheap, because I remember that's
Yeah.
one of your other panels you've done, and that
Yeah.
sounds wild to me because like Tokyo's expensive. In general, I mean,
Yeah.
it can be
Or
and it
is
can't
it?
be.
Wow.
That's what I'm saying. And
It
even
depends
I've
on, yeah, I
noticed
mean,
it too.
so overall, like the most expensive thing about getting from America to Japan is flying there.
Yeah.
You know, the flight is usually the most expensive. I mean, unless you're planning on staying in the Prince Hotel or something.
So quick background.
But-
I have visited Japan 4 times, and Adam has visited 5 times, including that 9-10 month time that he lived there.
Mm.
And was it 2 months study abroad?
yeah, before that, yeah.
So he spent a lot more time in there, but we've flown back and forth almost the same number of times. And when we fly together, when we visit, like as a vacation, we always try to do 2 weeks at a time because you're spending all this money just to get
Getting there.
there. But once you're there, you can find, if you know what you're doing, you can find hotels and feed yourself for relatively inexpensive compared to the cost
if
of
that's your
getting there.
goal.
So you might as well make the most of it and spend as much time there as you can. At least that's the view that we take.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I said, if you want to stay in the Prince Hotel and only eat, go to kaiseki places, then yeah, it's going to be expensive. But
in our panel, we talk about like different ways, different levels of accommodation. Like you could start at the business hotel, which is still compared to American hotels is going to be equal or cheaper. And then you can go down to, you could look at hostels, you could look at small ryokan, you could look at the capsule hotel if you really want to. I don't think that's really great for multiple days at a time, but for a night here and there, it might be something to look into. So as we go through the panel, we try to like, here's an affordable but still, high end.
When you say business
And then
hotels, are you talking about those hotels? And I stayed at one before. Those hotels that have those really tiny rooms that are like
they're a lot like American rooms, except tiny. Like,
I mean,
there's less space between them.
There's some variability there also within what is considered a business hotel, and some places will have bigger rooms than other places. It kind of depends on where they are. Obviously, in Tokyo,
but the amenities
are going to be
similar,
smaller.
where you're probably going to have a coffee maker in the room. You're probably going to have, your own shower. Whereas if you go to like a ryokan or a hostel, then maybe it's a community, bathroom area.
Some business hotels, older ones in particular, sometimes will have like you'll have an option to have a shared shower.
Oh my gosh!
That's
yeah. So
it's going to be cheaper. I mean, I've stayed in business hotels that were $40 a night.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I think I accidentally stayed at one, by the way. Like, I didn't know what I was getting. I'm like, why is this so cheap? I'm going here. And it did have its own bathroom. But I was like, which is my only deal breaker at any hotel. Like, I need my own bathroom, Like, anything else I'm kind of fine with. You put me in I can sleep on the floor. But when I get there, I'm like, what is this? What is this? Like, the room was like a really big closet. I mean, it was comfortable. I don't want to say like and it was in a good location, but it was like, oh my god, and it was right above a station, so it was a really good location. But yeah, I was like, ooh, I was not expecting to be in this tiny hotel, but it was like you said. I think it was $40 a night.
Yeah. So I don't actually have like a favorite place in Tokyo anymore.
Spend your time in the hotel room, anyways. Go. You're in Japan. Go.
Yeah, go do something somewhere else. Yeah, all of my favorite hostels and stuff in Tokyo actually have closed. So I don't really have like a go-to right now. I have to find a new one, but
the place we used to go to that we always recommended to everyone was a hostel.
Yeah, I would. Yeah.
But it was a Japanese style one. So you went in, you had a small room, and it was like literally just
a tatami,
just a tatami floor, and then a folded up futon in the corner. You had to like unfold it every night and then fold it back up. There was absolutely no furniture, but it was.
It was cheap. It was real cheap. Yeah, and it wasn't that far away from the station. Actually, they had rooms as small as 1.5 tatami. So when I stayed there myself, I would get the 1.5 tatami. It would be $30 a night.
Oh my god!
So it's like, what? That's great. But yeah, they closed a few years ago, unfortunately. But
that sucks.
I have to find another place like that now. Yeah, because it was actually they built Tokyo. It was right down the street from Skytree. Where Skytree is now, and I think maybe the Skytree going and probably raised property values, and
Oh.
maybe they just couldn't afford to be there anymore. But yeah, I was like, I ran by there when they were like, when there was like Skytree was only, like 200 feet tall at some point, because yeah.
Where is this you guys like to stay? That's like, I mean, like area wise, not like hotel wise, obviously. Area wise,
Yeah, all over the place. I've been all over the place. Actually, I mean, yeah, because I've been to the and obviously on Honshu, Tokyo's on the east coast, but I've been to Kanazawa on the west coast. I have a friend in Toyama, which is actually kind of also in that area. So I visited him in Toyama.
We usually spend at least a few nights in Tokyo because most of the flights
Oh.
from the US are going to connect there. But we also usually spend most of the trips we've spent sometime in the Osaka area, if not in Osaka itself, like Kyoto, Nara. We've visited Himeji. We've spent time in Sendai.
Last trip in 2019, we went to Hokkaido. That was for the first time. I had never been to Hokkaido before.
Yep, our hotel was in Sapporo, but we also visited some of the other surrounding.
We've done Mount Fuji. I've done Mount Fuji twice.
Oh my god!
And Jessie went once, and I had a graduate school interview in Okinawa. That was an interesting one. They paid to fly me out to Okinawa for 3 days.
This is
for an interview.
Go 5 times a night.
Yeah. And, and that was some good accumulation of airline miles. Through that, unfortunately, I didn't get accepted.
But you got.
But I did get. Yeah, I got to spend 3 days in Okinawa and in July, which it's real hot in Okinawa in July. By the way.
I mean, that sounds like it.
And so I also didn't. I had a stint where I attempted to have a journey of self-discovery or something, and I decided to walk out of Nagoya Station, backpacking, and I just decided to. I was trying to walk from Nagoya to Osaka, basically, and I only got 50 miles over a few days, and then took the train to Hiroshima, and then biked. There's a series of bridges that connect Honshu to Shikoku, which is the 4th largest island, which is called the Shimanami Kaido, and you can rent a bike and bike. It's 60 kilometers.
Oh wow!
And so I was originally going to try to walk from Nagoya to Osaka and then take the train to Hiroshima and then bike to Shikoku, but I ended up only getting as far as I only got 50 miles in. And my feet were. I didn't have the right. I bought really junky shoes because I was trying to save $20, and I severely regretted that.
Well, you discovered something about yourself, Adam.
I mean,
yeah. So don't compromise on shoes when you're trying to go backpacking. It was, so that was totally unplanned. I was I'm gonna walk to hotels. I'm just gonna when I feel like stopping. If I see a hotel, I'm gonna stay there. Totally unplanned. It was interesting. It was I'm gonna walking over a mountain in a thunderstorm, and then one night I actually ended up staying at a Love Hotel because it was it was the only place that was around. And I'm I don't know how this works, and because I just walking into there, and it was one of these a rural ones, so they're just garages. It's a garage and then a hotel above it. Because you put your car in, the door shuts, and then you're basically locked into the place until you pay. But I was standing in front of this in this parking lot, and it was probably 1 or 2 a.m. or something, and one of the people who worked there / maybe even lived there, probably they probably had a resident apartment thing, came out and was was basically what are you doing here? And I'm I speak Japanese. And okay, do you have money? Yes. And they're okay, you're good.
Oh my god.
Yeah, but it was actually great. It was a a giant room in the middle of nowhere. It's ridiculous.
I can't believe how adventurous your trips are. It's funny because I spent a grand total of maybe 2 collected months in Japan. I like going to Asia in general. So there are times when I'll spend a month abroad, so to speak, abroad. I'm just there traveling, but I'll be I'm mainly in Taiwan, or one time I was mainly in Thailand, and I'll spend a week or 2 in Japan, just back and forth. but whenever I go, even when I go just there, it's like I'll go there like to go do some shows, to go do a few interviews for A to J, the website, or to go to the party or hang out with friends. And it's like, man, I'm like, there's things to do that over here I am. I'm just like, which bar am I gonna drink at tonight in Golden Guy? You know, which that shit like that. I'm like, oh wow.
We do a lot of
Yeah,
sightseeing.
I always like trying to do some crazy. Oh, the last time we went to we went hiking in Hokkaido. So I like rented a car, drove on the left side of the road, blah blah blah. But it turns out, in the mountains in Hokkaido in June, it's high enough elevation that not all the snow is melted yet. Even though it's like 75 degrees. So we went hiking and we got lost a couple times. Ended up having to like trek over snow, and it turned out that was like that was great.
At one point, it's like
13 hours.
I think it was just like a stream for the snow runoff, but it was covered in snow.
Like a trail.
It looked like a trail. So we start climbing up it, and it's all this bamboo has been collapsed down, and it's covered in snow. So it looks like solid ground, and you keep falling through it. And after like 20 minutes of struggling, I look at the guys because Adam and one of our friends was with us. I'm like, I don't think this is the trail. So we backtrack to where we first started off on this area, and we figure out where the real trail is, and then we're good for like a couple hours. We're going around, and then we come to we're like should only have like 1, maybe 2 more hours left of hiking till we get back to the entrance because it's supposed to be a loop.
We're basically like trying to go around a mountain.
Yeah, so
we're going over some smaller mountains around it. Yeah.
So it's a sulfur mine, or it's an abandoned sulfur mine. So it's just white mounds, like rock
like a wasteland
everywhere, and absolutely no markers.
Yeah,
the markers just disappear.
But there were random
like,
pink markers in places we thought were
supposed to go. At some point, we found markers again, but they were not for the trail that we were supposed to be on. So then it ended up being after dark by the time we finally.
Like the sun is setting, and we're like, well, hopefully we would be able to find a place with cell phone reception so we could call emergency services if we needed to. But it was somewhere though, like my
like another 2 miles on the road to get back to where we parked the car.
Somewhere they were like trying to go over a tree. Like my pants ripped, and so we're like walking up this road at the end, and sort of like. They're like, oh, maybe you should, ask somebody to give us a lift or something. And like, what? I'm gonna like this foreigner with like a totally ripped pants, covered in dirt. It's gonna be like, hey, can you just drive us up this hill?
I mean,
it would just be so weird.
We had we had a change of clothes in the car. Where like there was an onsen down the street from the hiking area. We're like, we're gonna get back by 6 o'clock. The onsen doesn't close till 8. We'll go and we'll clean off. We'll have a soak. It'll be great. Then we'll drive back to the hotel. It was like almost 9 by the time we got back to the car.
Yeah. So definitely some adventures, but yeah.
So it was fun, but it wasn't quite what we had signed up for. We saw a deer.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Another weird thing is that despite all the time I've been out around like in mountains and stuff, and even like not in the middle of cities, I've never seen. So squirrels exist in Japan. They have a word for squirrels. It's not just Risu's squirrel, which kind of indicates that yes, they have to be squirrels somewhere. There are squirrels. I've never seen one. So like my quest next time is going to be to find a squirrel. I just want to see a squirrel. Yes. So I mean, I don't know. Maybe I have a friend who recently moved from Connecticut to outside LA and was like, it's weird there are no squirrels here. And for us, it's just like there's like 1 million squirrels per mile or something.
Where we live, if you don't see a squirrel, that means something really.
Yeah, I mean, squirrels are gonna. Post-apocalypse on the East Coast, there won't be any squirrels. Or actually, post-apocalypse, there still will be squirrels. Is what it seems.
No, the East Coast will be ruled by squirrels.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's like giant, like well, they're already semi-anthropomorphic, but giant, like freaking smart squirrels who've developed society. But going back to traveling cheaply, how do you guys like eat cheaply? Because I feel like that eats into your budget.
So again, we in the presentation we kind of go through like levels of here's like moderate amount of cost, and then going down to like how cheap can you go if you're really, really trying to stretch your dollar. So like Famirasu, something like Denny's,
Oh
or
my God.
or any of the many Japanese versions
Real
of that
fast,
kind of
You
restaurant.
like Caesarea?
No. Okay, so
I
Caesarea.
know you
Okay, so
like Caesarea.
okay. So there's a backstory for that. Is in Kanazawa, Caesarea was like the one place that was like the default for the college students that that to go to, and so I have
Again,
been to
'cause it's
Caesarea
affordable.
enough to last me like 3 or 4 lifetimes because it was like 3 times a week because they had the drink bar. So it was like everybody just goes to Caesarea for the drink bar, and I'm like, no, I've had enough of Caesarea. So
But yeah, restaurants like that where you can get a really good meal for like $15, or even maybe even
Yeah.
a little cheaper if you don't get like the combo set.
the other thing with why we say Denny's. So I don't know if you've been to Denny's.
Yeah, I've been to Denny's.
Japan. Okay, so like in Japan.
But for
Yeah.
those who
I've
haven't,
been to
please.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean,
Japanese
Japanese Denny's
Denny's.
is run by 7-Eleven, and it's completely different.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
Wait,
like,
7-Eleven
It's
runs
far
Japanese
superior.
family
Denny's?
restaurants, all the family restaurants, they like a lot of their menus. I'm sure you probably have like more of nuanced way to explain this, but like a lot of them, it always trips me out because I don't know if this is like what you consider like a normal like lunch food, but it's always a lot of like pastas and like pizzas, like pizza margherita. I can't tell you how many pizza margaritas I've eaten. It's just a cheap menu item, and like every family restaurant has it. And I'm like, yeah, I want a margherita pizza. Like, that's my thing. What's funny about Caesarea is that like I don't. Okay, in Japan they're okay, but they have them in Taiwan, and in Taiwan they're so cheap. And don't get me wrong, they're cheap in Japan too, but it's a combination of the prices are just cheaper. Period. Even when you compare the Taiwan dollar to the yen, but especially when you compare the American dollar, to it, like you could eat there for like, and I mean eat there like get like a whole set, get like the drink bar, and it's like $6, like American. It's like it's insane. I'm actually,
I mean, you generally can't get food for that cheap in Japan, but
I-
like
But I
my
love
my
Caesarea.
my experience, like trying to be basically a poor student getting by, was like I don't know, like chikuwa, the fish cake things, like
Oh,
those are
yeah,
like hey, that's a reasonable source of protein for like 100 some odd yen,
And I just want to throw out there for
and
anyone who's
onigiri and that sort of thing.
anyone's watching who's not familiar with a family restaurant. If you've watched any anime where a group of high school kids went to a restaurant and they sat in a booth, that was a family restaurant. And usually one of them gets a parfait or something, and the other one gets a Coke. That's a family restaurant. And that's why the high schoolers are there, is because it's a relatively affordable place to go for a light meal.
And they don't kick you out if you're gonna sit
Yeah,
there
if you sit there for 3 hours just
talking to your
drinking and not ordering anything, they don't really care usually.
I went to a Denny's the very first time. I hadn't gone to Japan in years, and in 2015, I went for the first time, like for like 10 years, like anywhere decently abroad. So I go there, and I'd never been to a lot. I've been to Japan once before. I don't remember this really being a thing. None of the places I went to, but I went to the Denny's, specifically the Denny's in Akihabara, by the way. I'm sure there's
Yeah.
probably several, but
Yeah.
there's one in the second. Oh,
yeah, there's definitely the famous one is we've been to the one in Akihabara
Yeah.
a bunch of times.
So I
Yeah.
went to that Denny's, and I go there, and I'm by myself. And I'm meeting someone there eventually, but I'm by myself for a few hours. I go there to go eat. I'm like, I know Denny's. I don't know Japanese very well. I'm kind of like lost, so I'm gonna just go here and eat because I'm hungry. So I go sit down, and I'm waiting there. I told the story before, but I never told to anyone who understood it. So I'm sitting there, and I'm waiting. And I'm like, okay, I know what I want. I'm just gonna wait till my server comes around, and I'm waiting.
Oh yeah,
And I'm waiting.
you gotta push the button. You gotta push the button.
Push the button. I didn't know there was a button, and I was so embarrassed. And like, I even contemplated stopping. I contemplated leaving. I was like, "What am I gonna do? Like, why aren't they serving me?"
There's a lot of izakaya also have the same system. All
Yeah.
the places have the button thing.
Well, like,
So-
I remember this izakaya that has the. Like, I've been to a couple that have the phone. When you order through the phone, they have a little phone. It's like, yeah, I want more of this. That's always awkward. So I'm like, how do I tell them what I want? It's like,
Well, also
that.
like I've only actually had the phones in karaoke places, but
Oh, and I've had the phones in a few izakaya specifically because it's like, oh, if you want get more food, you order. I guess you could. Maybe there was a button somewhere, but I don't know.
oh yeah.
But yeah, if you ever go to a Denny's or most restaurants have buttons. I'm still surprised no one. I mean, I guess nobody would. I've been to other restaurants, other family restaurants, where they check on us anyway. Maybe because they assume we don't know about the button.
Yeah.
But like, so I guess I just had a really weird experience that nobody cared. Like nobody cared.
That one might have been busy enough that they just didn't notice.
Yeah, that could be
Didn't
that could be
give
it
it.
too. I just thought it was
Yeah, I feel like some places in Tokyo, they're going to assume that maybe you just wanted to occupy the space.
I know, like I want to sit
That
here
tourist
for
is
like.
tired. He just wants to sit for an
Yeah,
hour. And
yeah,
rest his feet.
No, I was legitimately there. Like I said, like this was honestly like no exaggeration. Like I've always pinned it like, oh, it's a long time, but I think it was at least 20 minutes. It was close to a half hour. Like I was there for a while, like just sitting there. And every so often, I'm like, maybe they think I'm like done. I'm like, they think already. So I opened the menu again, and I'd even like kind of, I did every little thing. I'm like, short of asking someone. I don't know why
You
I
gotta
did it, but
make
yeah.
the thing go ding dong.
I know. anyway, yeah, those places are cheap. I'm gonna go eat there. Convenies are kind of cheap too.
Yeah, so when we go through our list, we start with family restaurants. We go down to American fast food. Slightly below that in terms of cost would be a Japanese fast food place. So like the donburi place,
Yeah, Yoshinoya.
where it's like here.
Yeah, I mean
is
that's
a
like
huge bowl of rice with some meat on top, and you can get it for $5, and you will be
Exactly.
full for
It blows.
multiple hours.
It blows my
Yeah.
mind how expensive, comparatively so, how expensive compared to Yoshinoya is here in the U.S. than it is in Japan.
Yeah.
It's like,
which is of course only in California. People on the East Coast wouldn't know that. Yeah, I think the Yoshinoya had a location in New York City for like 3 months or something. Unfortunately, it actually was in Times Square. I think actually.
oh, you guys don't have them on the East Coast?
No, not anymore.
Manuel, I don't think I've seen one outside of
A lot
California.
of the Japanese.
Oh, that's weird. I've grown. I mean, they've
franchises
always
come
been
over.
here.
We
Well-
actually went. I think we went to the one in Times Square. Like when
I'm
it
sure
was
there's several.
there,
I'm
but
sure
yeah.
there's several
I
chains
don't
like this.
remember.
But there's a chain in Japan where you order your food through one of those thingies, like like a little kiosk thing. And they print out a thing. What the heck is this chain called? It's really cheap too. Is why I bring it up. And you get like
You mean
unlimited rice.
just the ticket system?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean
Um,
that ticket thing is pretty common.
it is, but there's,
But
there's
Yoshinoya
one-
also does the ticket, but
Oh, they do it too. I didn't know that.
yeah.
In Japan, yeah.
There's this restaurant that's well, there's one of those that's I stay a lot in Shinjuku and like Kabukicho, and there's one in that area I like to go to, like especially if I've been drinking with my friends. I'm like, oh, we can get a lot of rice, and that solves the drink, and it's open really late. And I think they're open 24 hours actually. A lot of places do open.
Yeah, most
24
of them are
hours in
open.
Japan.
Yeah, a lot of them
Most
are.
family restaurants.
Donburi places are open 24 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've been playing the Yakuza series a lot. And so you mentioned the Kabukicho, and you also mentioned Golden Guy, which of course.
Oh
is,
yeah.
Modeled in Yakuza. But one of the restaurants in their is that they actually have like basically branding in the game for us, Matsuya, which is a real donburi.
Wait, what's it called?
It's a real chain.
Matsuya.
Is that the place I'm thinking about? Hold on.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's the product is that they basically have the same menu as Yoshinoya, but it's not Yoshinoya. So it could be. I mean, they're a national chain.
Yeah, speaking of that, sorry to interrupt, but I checked, Manuel. Yes, all Yoshinoya's in the U.S. currently open are in California. All the other ones have closed down.
Well, it's funny because there are a lot of chains that have like their sole locations, like in LA or San Jose or San Francisco. Like a lot of them. Like what's that one? Pepper Lunch?
Pepper Lunch, yes. Pepper Lunch is it's one of the things we always go to in mall food courts. There's always a Pepper Lunch. So
For those who don't know, please.
There once though.
you've been there 2 or 3
really?
times.
Because
I like
usually
pepper
like
lunch.
there's so many other options. I'm like, oh.
So there's actually
I get the same thing I've
a
already had
Pepper
or try
Lunch
something
in
new?
California.
Well, there was a location here for several years. I went to it when I went to conventions in NorCal. I think it's gone now, if I'm not mistaken. It might still be there, but I think somebody told it's in San Jose, and somebody was like, "Oh, it closed down," because I used to go there when there's a convention called Fanime up there, and we'd go up there. It's like, "Oh, let's go to the Pepper Lunch," because we're weebs at a weeb thing. And it's like, let's go to the place that because a lot of people and. I don't know if this is always the case. Like we had Famimas in LA. I don't know if you ever knew that, like Family Marts, but they were branded as Famimas.
Which is interesting.
Yeah,
like
because
they use the contracted more
Exactly.
Japanese name. Okay, whatever.
But even though they use the more Japanese name, similar to what the Pepper Lunch did, they kind of distance themselves from their Japanese roots, like by not pretending. But you know what I mean? Like you wouldn't tell unless you knew.
Well, it seemed like a normal like
Yeah.
convenience store in America, like a 7-Eleven or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, Pepper Lunch looked very American, and then that looked like 7-Eleven, and it's like, and no one, because kind of no wonder that both of them didn't do so well. Like the Family Monster are all gone, but yeah, rest in peace. I love Family Monster.
Yeah. My apartment
chicken.
in Okazaki was like immediately adjacent to a Family Mart. So I have Family Marts like close to my heart, sort of thing.
Oh yeah.
Convenience stores and supermarkets are definitely a good place to get the most affordable meal options too. Like if you really want to.
And the whole thing with like discount bento at night is a real thing. Although unlike in the show Bento, nobody actually goes and like tries to fight each other over it. But
yeah, supermarkets
it is a real thing.
In the evening you get discount stuff, so you can like get discounted pastries and stuff that you can eat in the morning for breakfast, and drinks, like bottled canned drinks, are a lot cheaper at a supermarket
than they are at convenience stores.
Vending machines are
sometimes the cheapest though.
But vending machines are affordable, but sometimes you can get it for even cheaper at a convenience store, or at the grocery store. Like when I bought CC Lemon, like I was getting bottles for 80 yen at the grocery store, where it was like they were 200 yen at the convenience store, and then it was like 250 yen at the vending machine. So
there are some vending machines you can find that are like super discount vending machines, but
but they're, you have to look for them.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, another.
I mean, you could spend 100 yen and get a Nikuman at the convenience store, and that's it might be a little bit on the light side for a meal, but it will
it depends on how there's a whole gradient of, if you're really trying to save money, you can.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, another correction manual. There are apparently 4 Pepper Lunch locations in California, and they're all still.
One in San Jose still there?
It says it's in Milpitas, California.
Yes.
Yeah, that one is still listed as open online, at least. There's also.
I'm not gonna lie. Like, to be fair, like we didn't go this most recent one because we didn't do much because of the pandemic. But I haven't been because of the pandemic to NorCal as much.
Yeah. Also, it has locations in Irvine, Alhambra, and Artesia, which I had to make sure is actually a place, only because I know that's Salem Ass's real birth name.
Artesia is next to me. There's one next to me. Oh my god. Anyway, do you guys shit, what the fuck was I gonna say? Sorry, I'm actually trying to look up that. I'm actually like looking on Google Maps and I look up at the restaurant that I'm trying to remember. It's really bothering me. But what was I saying? Oh, do you guys do you guys drink? I'll start with that actually.
I have a history of this, yes.
Because one thing I was going to point out is, well, I guess I'm sure this can change. This can change depending on where you go. But I always found it weird how affordable drinking can be in Japan. Does that make any sense?
Well, yes and no. I would say so. When I lived there, I would just been getting into the whole craft beer scene in the U.S. because that was sort of an up and coming thing, and there were like 4 craft breweries in the entire country, basically. In Japan at the time. That's a bit of an exaggeration there, but it was like it wasn't very common. And beer, like what we would consider craft beer, was really expensive at the time. And so, like, I would buy Guinness for like $8 a pint, which just sounds crazy. Yeah, so I mean, like your house sake or something is cheap, and actually, but I found like Suntory gin and stuff is actually like really cheap, and like they're sort of like the rum that that Suntory makes, or like the house sort of liqueurs are pretty cheap. But yeah, beer was like really expensive for if you're not just drinking super dry.
I was gonna say it's kind of funny,
and that started to change now, but
I mean, you could. I'm gonna bring this up because you can go to a convenience. You can get like a strong zero for
too high is really cheap.
Oh,
yeah, of course,
exactly. And you could also get like what are the sparkling sakes, which are like $10 a bottle here in the US, and they're like 400 yen there. And it's all like, are you serious? Like I can actually afford
like
these.
Ozeki. Yeah, I mean, like Ozeki in the cup, and yeah, I mean, that's a lot cheaper.
Manuel, I just
Also, like,
one quick question to ask: is your like default go-to for traveling anywhere just to stay in the hotel room and raid a convenience store? Because I swear you did that at
Oh my-
AX2.
No, for the record, I'm gonna admit something I probably shouldn't, but I'm that foreigner who will like go to the conveni, get their alcohol, and they just start drinking it. Like, you know, and you can. It's not, but it's, you know, everyone's like, oh, here's that foreigner, you know. I won't be by myself. I'll be with friends, and we'll all be like drinking our strong zeros down the street, like probably being way too loud. Everyone is like not walking anywhere near us. You know what I mean? Everyone's like giving us a wide a berth as possible. But yeah. So typically, to answer your question, JD, I don't go back to the hotel for that. And when I do, it's just to finish off, you know. But yeah.
Finish off the beer, right?
Yes. No, it's funny because like I went to this convenience, and I swear that the woman there, either she was just doing her job to a T, or she was just like messing with me, probably both. Because there was a certain thing at Family Mart when I was there. Like if you spend so much, you get like a price ticket. And like I admittedly did spend like a ton of money, like $40 comparatively, in like, you know, all these drinks. And so I got like 4 or 8 of these freaking like, you know, tear off thingies. And I was like, it's fine, I don't want them. She's like, no, you kind of. I'm like, fine. So I tear them all open.
It's a policy. You have to give it to you.
And of course, they're like all winners, basically. And I'm like, it's fine. And I try to explain to her. I even told my friend who speaks like Japanese, I'm like, can you just tell her that she can give it to whoever, she can keep it? It's like I don't want all these drinks. She's like, no. She went around the store and she's like, oh, you can get this. I'm like, I don't want to get it. So she went and got them for me. She collected all the drinks I won, like, you know, a coffee, some random soda, you know, some other alcohol or whatever. And like I had like 2 bags of extra drinks. And I'm like, oh my god, I don't know if she just wanted to do her job. And this is like late. This is not during the day.
But this is like it's like this is the policy. We're going to follow the policy. Yeah,
I just
that
found
is
that funny.
Manuel.
Speaking of raiding convenience stores, Ed and I went
Go ahead.
to Toronto back for Thanksgiving of this past year, which was a huge hassle because they still had like restrictions in place and you need to have a negative test within a certain amount of time, which, fun fact, can be really hard to get because a lot of tests take longer than 3 days to get the results back, but you have to take the test within 3 days of going. But anyways, we got in there. It was great. The last night that we're there, we decided to drive a little bit outside of Toronto and visit a Japanese convenience store. It's like a Japanese branded convenience store. How much did you spend at the convenience store, Adam?
Oh, no, that was actually a small supermarket.
Okay.
It was like $200.
What?
We filled 3 shopping carts.
Not cup. They weren't.
They were
Baskets.
small, but
Yes,
they were bigger than a normal handheld basket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Well, they were. I mean, there was a pretty decent markup of that. Well, it's $200 Canadian.
Oh, okay. Okay, I always forget that. No, it's funny because when I came back from Japan, a different trip. I've only been to Canada once in my life, and it was during a really long layover coming back from Japan. Might have been Taiwan, doesn't matter. Coming back from Asia. But I was really confused when I got there and how expensive everything was. I was like, oh my god.
But all these things that we bought there like have price tags on them, and I'm still like, wait, this was like $5, like Canadian dollars. Yeah. It still was a reasonable markup, but you know, considering
we don't do that in Japan really because then you have to get all the stuff home. But this was Toronto. We just
we're put it in the car.
Literally filled like the whole back of the car with snacks and things and drove back over the border with them.
Well, I mean that's partially actually I bought a bunch of like, you know, Anko which is why I've been making, you know, Tsubo which I've been making Anpan, so that was
I got back like 6-liter bottles of milk tea or something like that.
Yeah.
They don't sell milk tea at the Asian food markets in Rochester. It's hit or miss whether they actually have any of the Japanese brands, and the Chinese brands just have like a different taste to them. I'm not a huge fan. But the supermarket had not just milk tea in like the normal single serve bottles, but they had the big bottles.
Liter bottles. Yeah.
So
I guess I'm a little spoiled, like because like in the just especially where I live, specifically in the South Bay, there's there's several like Japanese markets around here. There's the Mitsuwas, which I don't know if that's a branded Japanese like from Japan, but then there's the Tokyo Central.
I think Mitsuwa is. They also have a location in New Jersey.
Yeah, I was gonna say I know that they're like on the East Coast to a degree. I don't know if
Yeah.
it's just New Jersey, but yeah. But we also have Tokyo Central, which I think have several locations in the U.S., and that's a Don Quixote branded market. Well, it's a store, but there's also a market, in there. And then there's like, do you guys have Daisos there?
I mean, not on the East Coast, no.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, that's crazy.
None of those three that you listed are within.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
A day's drive
Yeah,
from where
yeah,
we
yeah.
live. So
Yeah, for those who don't know,
I mean,
Daiso's
New York City is
over
not has more options, but we're 300 miles from New York City, so.
Oh, I'm not gonna lie. I don't really know where Rochester is on the map because I'm stupid American.
right
I don't
near the
any
Canadian
We're
border.
way closer to Canada than we are New York City.
Oh, okay. So you're the upstate New York that I always hear about.
Yes, I was
I only
actually
hear
just
about that,
talking
like-
about this earlier today with some of
Did
my
we?
coworkers.
Oh, because it's funny because like whenever
Tora-con,
like
we're in upstate New York.
Yeah.
a lot of I've always heard of this mythical upstate New York, and I never really understood what that meant. But then again,
we're Western New York.
Yeah, upstate has a lot of meanings depending on where in New York you live. If you live in New York City, upstate is anywhere 2 hours outside of the city. And then everyone else in New York State argues about like where the line is from where it's upstate to like true upstate, or if it's western, or if it's central, or yeah.
Yeah.
Like Albany is central New York, but if you're in New York City, it's upstate New York. But then we're in Western New York, and like Potsdam is upstate
Yeah.
New York.
We're technically on the northern border of the state, but that's because the northern border of the state goes like this, and then it goes up again. And so that's actual, like, people argue like that's the only true upstate up in that
Oh my
corner.
God.
Yes, I had a very condensed version of this argument, our conversation today with one of my coworkers who was talking about upstate New York. It's like, yeah, it rules. Just wait, does Rochester count for you? It's like, yes, okay, we're good.
No, it's funny because like similar on like California, like we call Northern California the part that's like San Francisco and San Jose and everything like that.
But that's
central.
people in San Francisco don't consider that to be Northern California.
Yeah, because there's a lot of California north of that, and it's like that's where Sacramento is. Well, Sacramento's like not really. Well, it's not really. It's not part of the Bay Area, and it's further up north, and there's even more above that. Like the part no one lives in. Well, I'm sure there's lots of cities up there. I offended a ton of people.
Yes,
In the north.
Manuel, that's a regular day for you.
There's lots of cities, and they're very nice.
There's a Weed, California. I only know this because like whenever I fly over it, I'm like, oh, we over Weed? Because it's somewhere way in the north, like somewhere towards the border of of Oregon or whatever. Wait, is Oregon?
Yes,
Like yes,
Oregon, then Washington.
Anyways, somewhere around that border, there's Weed, California. Like, and I'm like, did they just name it that? And just so it could be on a map, and it's funny because I'm like, who lives in? Anyway.
We have a Weeds port.
There's a
Manuel.
lot of various.
Yeah. If you want to get back to bread, now might be the time to do it.
Oh yes.
Yes, yeah.
Apparently, Weed, California has a population of less than 3,000. So yeah, keep going.
So I was trying to connect back to the bread thing.
It's okay. I have to do this every week.
Do you want to show your
Well, that's he's
video?
got that. So yeah, I mean, I've always been a little bit frustrated with my how some of the stuff that I've made myself turns out, because I always try to make it too healthy. This is just like my thing.
Yeah.
I modify every recipe on the fly.
Yeah, just let me know when you want me to start the video.
Okay. Yeah.
Video.
But so one thing I decided to try recently was like I found 4 different recipes for Anpan. So if you aren't familiar with what Anpan is, An is sweetened red bean paste. It's red. You take red beans, boil them, mash them up, put a whole lot of sugar in there. I find that people either from around here either like it or they don't. But it's really popular in Japan as a and in confections of all kinds. So also taiyaki, it's in taiyaki, dorayaki, and also you can put it in bread, and it's Anpan. But I've always had a hard time like shaping things, and so I was like, I'm gonna try a few different recipes, see which one I like the best, and is easy, maybe dough that's easier to work with. And I sort of like recently I had when we were talking about doing this podcast, I was like, hey, why don't I just record some random video of making bread? So I made a time lapse of it and condensed it into 5 minutes, which may or may not be interesting. But yeah, I don't know if you want to play it anyway.
Yeah, probably should have been playing it.
Playing it. It is going. You can't see it, but it's on stream.
Is it?
Okay.
Okay. Oh yeah, there it is.
There you go.
It is on stream.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I use a bread machine because I have one and I know how to knead. Once you like knead bread dough a few times, you're like, okay, that's enough. I know how to do it. That's great. I'll let the machine do it now. Because otherwise, you could be doing something else with that time.
Yeah, Adam's been making. I mean, ever since the whole bread in Japan.
When I lived in Japan, I obviously
doing
needed stuff.
all way before the pandemic.
Yeah.
This is funny because you don't know this, but when the pandemic first started, remember how there was a whole thing about everyone baking their bread at home?
Yeah, there was like a yeast shortage.
Yeah,
and, like,
it was. Oh my god! But like, I don't even know if JD knows this. I don't know if he watched. He definitely wasn't hosting back then, but I don't know if he watched at this point. But there was a very early pandemic episode, and this is back when we were doing a bunch of them. That I went off on this huge tangent on people who make bread at home, and it was just. It was just pandemic madness setting in, and I was just ranting about anything. But I got really mad about it, and I was like shaking, and I was just like. I had to get up and calm down. There was like a bunch
you
of
make your own bread.
Yeah, I was so upset. It's just so funny. You don't realize how funny this is that we should have been
full circle. Yeah. But it's you're making a Japanese bread. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I do have. It's funny because
it's time lapse, so it's more interesting.
Yeah, I do have my own sourdough starter, which I still have, and I had it then too. I don't know why I was just angry. Like I said, it was the pandemic thing. I just wow, that got a lot bigger. I mean, that's what bread does, but yeah.
Yeah, but I always like. I mean, I'm also obsessed with time lapses. So I always like the sort of I don't know. I was like, yeah, it's watching bread rise is not that interesting, but like it is when you accelerate it by 4,000 times. But yeah, so filling. Okay, so like shaping the things is really kind of hard, and I am still really horrible at it.
I tried it too, and
this particular dough was actually more oily, and it was hard to get it to stick to itself again after you roll it. And I don't know, it always ends up breaking apart. And I don't know how bakeries actually do it in volume and make them look so consistent, because I definitely can't. But that was also why I decided to like make 4 different recipes in a month. This is already attempt number 3 out of 4. This dough was easier to roll, but it was harder to shape it. But then one other way, just also because Jessie doesn't like I also had like tried to stick marshmallows in there with chocolate and make like s'mores
with very interesting results.
And it was interesting
because the marshmallows in the oven expanded. The breads became very large, but then once the marshmallow cools down again, it shrinks back to close to its original size. So
it's like a bread cavern.
Yeah, this big hollow bread. It was very interesting.
Yeah, you'll see it in the oven. It
was like you'd break it open, and it was just like this giant.
Yeah. So here's my trying to. I was like, let's just stick some chocolate in a marshmallow in this and see how it goes.
It
definitely looked weird when you're like, well, I can see this chocolate block in this bread, and before baking it, but yeah. But yeah, so I was just really like trying to get better at shaping these things, and I haven't yet, but
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of like the bean paste myself either. It's funny because for me, it's just that I find it too sweet. Which is a complaint I've never heard anyone else say, really. But I find it too sweet for my.
That's interesting because, a lot of like Japanese confections are much less sweet.
Exactly
than what we're used to. Like if you get a cake somewhere in Japan, it's gonna like you're gonna be like, wow, where's all the sugar? Yes, but yeah, I mean, obviously, is like there is a lot of sugar in there. But I find it that taste wise, it usually is balanced out. reasonably well. So I never really noticed that, but yeah, I guess it depends on also like where it comes. Actually, the
Is
stuff
that
I
the
was using here
marshmallow one?
happened to be
Is that the marshmallow one on the left?
yeah, they just like
The one that just blew up out of nowhere, right?
Yep.
and then it baked like
It's
that, and
all
then the marshmallow like, comes. Yeah, it was like leaking out, and then yeah. So I thought it was amusing enough to.
Yeah, you can tell which ones are the marshmallow ones. and which
Yeah,
ones not. But
I mean, this looks
yeah.
really good for a home baked thing. Like, not.
I
like
don't do that.
plastic or
I don't.
whatever.
Yeah, I don't do the egg wash. I don't really. Like some people would be like, it's not Anpan unless you have the egg wash and the sesame seeds on top, and I'm like, yeah, it's not. It's not totally necessary. Like I'll simplify it a little bit, but
Yeah, it's funny. I was just talking to a friend about this yesterday. I was like, she was asking about them. She's like, what do these taste like? Because obviously, I'm the resident China. She was talking about this from like a Chinese perspective, a Chinese angle, I mean to say. And I was like, I'm the resident China, but she's like, what do these taste like? And I'm like, you've never had these before? Like, I feel like just being a weeb, like, like like you get these everywhere.
well, I mean, the red bean paste is also pretty common in Chinese.
Yeah.
Stuff also. So, yeah. So I mean, I think I always thought of it as something that was like a Japan thing, but I don't know where it originated from.
I'm not sure where it originated.
Particularly, I mean, obviously the idea of. So I mean, you have dumplings, steamed dumplings, and then Japan kind of turned that concept into, transitioning that also to putting stuff in bread. But I don't know where. I'm not sure exactly where the red bean paste came from.
This is a random fun fact of mine that I like to point out that it's not really a fun fact because like most people do know it. But did you know that ramen's not Japanese?
Yeah.
Everyone like it depends. Like if you talk to someone who like kind of know, I'm like that's why it's written in kana. That's why it's like
yeah.
That's why what is it like lo mein or whatever? Like it's the way you pronounce it, whatever. But it's funny because every so often you say that to like a fresh-faced weeb at a convention. They're like, "What?"
Hey, Manuel. Yeah.
I mean,
Today I'm that weeb.
Become a very strong part of their culture.
I mean, I used to be that. I mean, it's funny because you definitely see it far more. Like, and it's funny because it's like it gets re-imported back into like especially in Taiwan. If you go to Taiwan, you'll see a lot of ramen places, and not like lo mein. You see ramen, or not even just Chinese noodle soups, like specifically ramen. So it definitely has become its own thing.
Japan's got their own twist on it.
Oh, for sure.
But the noodle, obviously, the noodles and stuff came from.
Do you like corn?
Regional specialties? Like you have the Tokyo, or
the soy sauce, soy sauce broth versus miso broth versus pork bone broth versus
It's funny because in the chat, I just see mentions that he always grabs them during dim sum. He's talking about the Anpans or whatever, the sesame ball, the sesame ball version though. And it's funny because the person I was talking to, she was calling them dim sum balls because that's the only thing she knew them as. Like she didn't know the wording for it, obviously. But I was just like, I've never had them at dim sum though. However funny that is, the place that apparently everyone associates them with. But going back to ramen real fast. I've never mentioned this before. I think this is a new hot take from Manuel, and I used to think it was only an American thing, but I've definitely seen it in Japan. Now I'm just gonna say it. To me, pineapple on pizza, the equivalent, the ramen equivalent to that, in my opinion, is corn and ramen. Am I the only one who thinks that?
But it's really common.
Exactly. I used to think it wasn't. I used to think it wasn't.
Yeah.
But it is. And apparently, I'm just the freak here who doesn't like corn.
There's corn overall. I mean, so like the corn soup in cans and vending machines thing.
I've never seen that.
Oh yeah. You can get corn. Yeah, and in winter, actually, when in winter they have the vending machines on like the warm setting. You get warm corn soup in a can in a vending machine.
Yeah, I can't remember where I was at. It might have been like a curry house or whatever. No, whatever the curry houses in Japan called the
kokuichi or
there you go, the kokuichi. Because we had curry houses here. That was like when they first came to the U.S., which they're all gone now. Rest in peace. But anyways, the kokuichi. I think don't they have corn soup? That was the first time I'd ever had corn soup. I was like, oh,
probably
it's everything I hate. I love corn. Don't get me wrong. I just don't like corn I guess I don't like corn in soup.
There was actually, I forget where it was, but there was one anime store we had that had like a vending. They had a vending machine that it was all like anime character themed corn soup cans in one vending machine outside the place. I don't know. That was weird. That was a weird one. But that was it. It was all different cans of corn soup. Like, okay.
I would probably buy one on accident, not knowing what it was. I'm like, oh, look how cute! This one has Doraemon or whatever. it's like, oh, it's my enemy.
I'll dump it out and keep the can.
It's actually not that. So it was one of the things I bought at that store in Toronto was at Heisei Mart was a couple random cans of corn soup.
And we
Oh
put
my
them in
God.
One of them we donated to the Anime Club holiday auction.
Well, we had
it's like, oh, whatever, it's Japanese corn
RIT
soup.
Anime Club has a charity auction every winter. And so we try to donate something. Usually we donate stuff that we've gotten signed by voice actors from convention.
Put together
or any conventions for a while.
One time I donated like a kit of like everything you need to make taiyaki.
Yeah.
One time I donated a Laserdisc player and some anime Laserdiscs, and like, sure, why not?
So we
wasn't there also
together,
Top Gun with that?
What are the wackiest things we can buy in this convenience store, and we're gonna put them together into
Corn soup.
the charity auction. So it was corn soup. It was like some random chip flavors, and then it was a bunch of like Demon Slayer themed cookies. They weren't really wacky, but it was just like
They were cheap.
Demon Slayer.
We were Demon Slayer.
Yeah, it was like knockoff Oreos and some other things.
I remember I
had the wrapping on them.
the last time I went to Japan, they had the Child's Play, the Chucky pasta sauce, and I bought a bunch of those pasta sauces, and I'm like, look, it's. I mean, it doesn't make that much sense because it's still red, but it's like, oh, it's curry. It was curry. It wasn't pasta sauce. It was just bloody curry. That's what it was. Because I remember thinking it was pasta sauce when I bought it, and then I'm like, oh wait, this is curry powder. I thought it was sauce. Oops.
Yeah, Manuel,
Anyway.
Jessie Adam. I'm very sorry to cut off what is going to be an
should we
interesting
shoot open the
conversation.
box?
Oh,
Yeah, but we're at 10:15 already, so actually, if you want to do a quick unboxing and then wrap up.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I'm a horticulture teacher. I teach gardening at the school that I work at. It's an elective class like art and music. And there was a subscription box for Pusheen merchandise. And their spring theme was gardening. So I'm like, oh, I gotta get some Pusheen gardening stuff and I can put it in my classroom and all my kids will think I'm cool. So I did that. But I forgot to cancel the subscription in time. So then I got the email being like, your summer box has been ordered. And I was like, I don't want it.
It's partially because of supply chain disruptions, and the original box that she had ordered was like 3 months late or something.
Yeah, it was.
And so this one actually arrived like 2 weeks after the other one.
Yeah.
Even though they're supposed to be quarterly.
So I got the order confirmation. I emailed them back the very next day, and I was like, "Please cancel this order. I just wanted the one box." And they're like, "It's too late." And I was like, "But it didn't ship till like another week." So I don't know why they couldn't cancel the order, but they couldn't. So now I have the summer box, and its theme is Sweet Picnic. So this is the Pusheen box. It comes plastic wrapped in this adorable Pusheen themed shipping box with the tail and the feet.
We don't know what's in it yet.
Yeah, I haven't opened it. It's still in the plastic wrap, so I'm gonna
Suspense.
open it.
It's
now.
funny because
We'll find out.
yeah, I've been subscribed to the Pusheen box too. I tried to find my stuff earlier. It's fine. We didn't have time for it anyway. But like, I had some cool stuff from the first year Pusheen box, including a USB like stick that only is like 32. Like I think it was like maybe even less than that, like 32 gigs. And I'm sure at the time that was cool, but I'm like, what the heck can you put on there for 30? Oh, look, it's Pusheen.
Okay, so the last box had a T-shirt and a figurine, and it looks like that this box
This one
also
has a
has a
t-shirt?
T-shirt and a figurine. So so there's a cafe latte Pusheen plushie.
Okay,
Looks
that's a
like
cute
he's
one.
sitting in a little coffee mug with a little, what are these called? It's not biscotti, but yeah.
Oh,
Straw things.
Yeah. See, so we got the T-shirt.
Actually, for those who don't know, I think Manuel, do you know who Pusheen is, or what Pusheen is?
yeah, it's a character. It's a gray cat. I don't know why he's not gray in that box. By the way, on the cover of the box, he's like yellow. I mean, but he's a
Well,
cat.
because it's a Simmons swirl. Because the theme for this month is
Oh, I didn't.
Sweets.
Hey, it's a
Sweets thing.
Dreamcast.
Yeah.
It's a Dreamcast swirl. That brought back memories.
What does it say? Oh, Cat Pushino.
Oh,
Cat Pushino.
Cappuccino, but
It's
cat
got,
Pushino.
it's Pusheen and
It's
cat
so,
and
it's
cappuccino
so fun. It's so
all
fun.
thrown in there. We got a lot of things going on in that word.
Oh man,
Pushino. It's like a little box.
a little, maybe a little too small to
Well,
practical,
it's
but
got the silicone
Oh,
back.
it's okay. It would be the right.
It's an
Okay,
expanding
okay. I was
one.
gonna say. Okay, that's good. I was just like, it'd be the right size if it only went further in. Put rice
Yeah,
in there.
yeah,
Has it got autofocus on?
yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna hold it up to the
You have to. You might
Feeling like a
go
snack.
up.
Oh,
neck. Yeah. I guess autofocus is not working.
Well, it's slow.
There
It's
it
really
goes.
slow.
feeling like a snack.
I'm not gonna wait for it to focus better. Moving on.
You have to approach it gradually.
Oh, ice pack. Okay. Pusheen strawberry
You get hurt.
roll cake ice pack. That's actually really cute. Very small. I don't know how effective an ice pack it actually is. Like a lunch.
Oh, here's the inventory card.
Yes. Yeah, they give you an inventory card so you can make
Oh.
sure you got all your items. This isn't a lunchbox. Is it? I guess it is.
Swirl.
It's a lunchbox without a top. It's like a to-go bag.
Oh,
Shopping
that's a
bag?
cool looking bag.
It's got croissant pushino on it. Or pusheen. Now I'm saying it wrong.
Yeah. Cat Puccino.
It feels like it's made out of lunchbox materials. It's like got the double-sided, but
It's like actually kind of insulated. Well, not really. It's not really insulated.
It's be like
It's like a bag. It's a tote bag. Yeah.
That's still a
Picnic
cute
tote.
bag.
It says it's a picnic tote.
Well,
Your
maybe
giant
one of the other
sandwiches.
things is that that's
So
more
is this a
more
picnic
of a
blanket? Picnic blanket.
Yeah.
All right. Picnic
blanket.
blanket. Looks like it'd be kind of big. I don't know if I want to unroll it.
Yeah, I
right
was
now.
about to say like it looks thin but big. I mean, it looks
It's like thick. Yeah.
Bottle opener.
Bottle opener. Croissant bottle opener.
I'd use that for beer.
That's the plushie. Oh, so good.
Manuel, I think you use just about anything for beer.
I'd use that bag for beer.
So the vinyl toy, I'll open it up, but it's probably what
Oh, it's
that
just a cat.
picture is. It's probably
It's just a cat. Just this is all just a cat. I meant just a cup. By the way, I meant just a cup. It's like everything here is just a cat. Fun fact.
all yeah.
There he is.
The very first piece of Pusheen real merchandise that the author, whoever they are, I don't know their name off the top of my head. Oh, it's cute though.
It's Pusheen
It's
in a glass coffee cup.
Is that still a cappuccino? A cappuccino.
I think
Cat
Cat Pushino?
Cat Puccino.
it's Pushino.
Cat Puccino.
When the artist
that's the
first did
box.
their very first piece of merchandise was a Pusheen plush that they got like specially made. Only so many of them were made. Now there's a ton of Pusheen plushes.
Oh, all
No
of them.
kidding, yeah.
Yeah.
But this is like 2010 or something or sometime around then. I don't remember exactly when. And they did a Pusheen book, and if you bought the book, you entered the contest. And my then girlfriend won the contest. She was like one of like 25 winners, or even less than that, I think. And I remember because everyone was so mad, and she was so excited because like I'm like, oh look, we got a Pusheen plus, and I still have that plush somewhere. Don't ask why I have it, even though she's my ex now, but I still have that plush. I'm that ex-boyfriend. I'm a thief. But anyway, that's a cool box.
Yeah. So yeah, the last box I got, the gardening one, was another figure of Pusheen with like a little watering can in their hand, and there was a T-shirt.
The weird thing is, it was also like
Brioche.
It was also with the sloth. Like everything else had the
Yeah,
sloth on it.
there was some sloth
Like, why was it-
mascot that I was not familiar with. That was also, I think it was like a crossover branding thing. So then there was like a little garden apron with Pusheen and the sloth, and the T-shirt was Pusheen and the sloth. And I was a little upset because the T-shirt had nothing to do with gardening. I was really looking forward to having like a gardening Pusheen shirt that I could wear to work as the horticulture teacher, and the shirt was just Pusheen and the sloth, and no plants or gardening
That's
at all.
annoying.
And I was like, and
Was
there
there not like a Pusheen branded like trowel or something? I don't know what
There
There,
is.
there was actually.
Oh, there
It's
was?
in the room. Yeah, I could go get it. It's
my
it's
God.
not a trowel. It's a spade.
Oh, okay.
Like a little shovel and gardening gloves that are
Okay,
printed
I
with
was gonna say,
Pusheen.
I'm like, I
Um,
would be upset if it's a gardening set didn't come with some sort of hand gardening tool Pusheen branded.
Yeah, there was
That's
this
the one thing I would expect.
Adam's got. So it was garden sign
Uh
to
huh.
put in your garden, I guess. Gardening gloves
Okay.
with the sloth again and
Whoever
Pusheen.
the sloth, I've never seen this sloth. By the way.
I don't know. And then yeah,
Okay.
little shovel. There was a watering can and a little like planter
Okay.
pot for like a house plant.
Really,
Oh, that's cool. I like that it's on the. For some reason, I was thinking it would just be on the handle. I feel bad
Oh,
using it, but I would definitely use it.
Well,
Oh, there it
I
goes.
mean, I don't think I'll ever use it. I'll probably just have it like on
Throw it
display.
off in your class.
Is it weird to put it on display? It's a
The
gardening
kind that goes
tool.
in my bank account. That kind of bread. That's a good kind of bread.
Yeah, it's like uh, subscription box is like $45, I think, including shipping.
Yeah, that's
No, maybe
actually,
it was more like 50 after shipping, but it's not bad for the number of items you get.
and
So
that's pretty good. The price hasn't gone up. I think it was 50 when I got it. Because I remember, I think it was four. I think I got a special and I got it for like 150 for like the whole year. And yeah,
that's a lot of stuff.
it was, and I regretted it. It was one. It was like this is like 2014. It was like, oh, I love Pusheen, and I found I didn't love Pusheen that much. That was my realization that year. That was the year. And don't get me wrong, Pusheen's still a cool character, and I still kept most of it. I'll show it off on a future podcast, my Pusheen collection. But yeah, it's a few
See,
things.
I have a
Poutine
student
better than Pusheen.
I have a student who's super into Pusheen, and he's also really into gardening. So maybe I'll wait till he graduates, and I'll give him the gardening trowel if I haven't used it by
And I'll give it
then.
anyway.
Yeah,
But yeah, so I guess that'll be wrapping up the show. It's actually funny because this show has been the most on point show I think we've had in a long time.
We had
I
things
mean,
we want to talk
we
about.
didn't get to talking about news or anything else, but
I know
Yeah.
that was the shocking part. I'm not gonna lie. Even when not to get too much behind this won't be a long thing, JD, don't worry. Without giving too much behind the scenes thing, I was kind of busy the past few days with both my real life shit and also just bullshit. I was playing too many video games. But like I was like, oh, we really needed to think about the show. And I never wrote anything in there. Usually I read at least the stuff JD did. Like basically topics to jump to if we don't know what to say. And we didn't have to do that. Which is also kind of sad because there were some news things we could have covered, but maybe they'll still be newsworthy next week. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not up on all
Fortnite.
the anime news, anyways. Really, I mean, I've
Yeah,
been watching shows, but I haven't really been paying attention to.
No one
stuff.
plays Fortnite. Fortnite's not a popular game.
the millions of people who play that would disagree with you, Manuel.
It's funny. I didn't put a stream schedule out this week, and it's funny because I was like last week. I'm like, oh, our schedule's so normal. I'll put one out. By the way, this is me starting to wrap up. But because tomorrow I'm not sure if we're doing the gaming stream on Wednesday, the A to J Adventures. Mainly because Warren's floor is still being worked on, so I don't know if he'll be able to. Obviously, if he's able to, then we'll do it. If not, then oops. So assume no until it happens. I mean, that's a terrible way to do a schedule. But be surprised if we do it. But Drink Talk Roll is happening this Friday. Friday we're playing D&D, and I will be playing D&D again. So yeah. So I probably won't have my camera on because it's hot, and I don't want to like box myself into the room. So yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, Adam,
Yeah,
Jessie.
Thanks for having you guys on. It was great. It was.
Thank you for having us.
Do you two have anything you'd like to promote?
Yeah.
If you find yourself in upstate and or Western New York, you should come to Tora-con. It's going to be in March on. Oh, I don't remember the exact date. I think the 23rd. Whatever the weekend is that falls on that week of March.
There's
but
the
yeah,
website.
you can come.
Look
Yeah,
at it.
Toracon.org.
There'll be it's March 19th, by the way. But oh wait, no, it's this year. Never mind. Oops, ignore Manuel. I'll bleep myself
It's
out.
back to 2 days. So this past year was 1 day. Next year it's going to be 2023. It's going to be 2 days again.
Yeah, I think
And,
it should be the 25th and 26th. I think.
It's still
Gosh, I really should have
being
checked
planned.
before.
So
There'll
we
be-
don't.
there'll-
We
there'll
can't
be a
say anything
website.
else about what's going to be there because we don't know yet. But I'm sure it'll be great.
Anyhow, yeah, it's been great having you guys on. Hopefully, we do this again sometime. Next week we'll be back. I think we're gonna have Hina on, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't told JD this, but that was the plan. I just haven't told JD this.
Okay, but are we still talking everything Ice and Fire?
Oh, that's the Ice and Fire one.
Yeah, that's next week.
Oh, then we'll probably have like Leslie on instead then.
Okay.
It's but anyways, I have a lot to talk about. There's this band I discovered. It turned out that they do songs about Game of Thrones, and I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. But anyways, we'll talk about that next week. Anyway, so yeah, thank you for being here. Shout out to our patrons Ed, Kenneth, and Ravav. Thank you for supporting us. Links to all the places to support us down below. And if you're watching on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe. I did notice there was a weird lull. I think because we weren't uploading because that was when AX was happening. But our numbers have gone crazy the past week. So crazy for us. So please keep watching and thank you. Subscribe and go to Tora-con.
Yeah, it's a good time.
Thank you. Peace out.
Bye.